The New York Islanders got the band back together for 2023-2024, but will the results be different? We discuss that and more on today's special season preview edition of the Locked On NHL podcast, your team every day. The NHL season is less than a week away, and Locked On's season preview coverage continues as we welcome in the host of Locked On Islanders, Gil Martin, to discuss every detail you need to know about the New York Islanders ahead of the 2023-2024 season. Gil, thank you so much for joining me. Let's start with the biggest storyline surrounding the New York Islanders heading into this season.
I think the biggest storyline is that the cast is the same, and now it's a question of whether or not the same group of players can get better results. Now, the Islanders themselves, the players, the organization, they're saying, well, it's not exactly the same. We had Bo Horvat only for February till the end of the year. Pierre Engvall, we only had from the trade deadline to the end of the year. Now we've got these guys for a full season. Matthew Barzal is healthy again. So they're sort of playing it up that way. But essentially, Lou Lamoriello is bringing back the same cast and hoping for a better result.
As we look at a few other things, what is the most significant offseason move that the Islanders made and why?
To me, the most significant offseason move was the extension they gave to Ilya Sorokin. It was an 8-year extension. It won't actually kick in until next year, but it locks up their best player. They did not pay him the most out of any goalie in the NHL. There are like 3 goalies maybe who are making more than he is. And that is the sort of the backbone, the foundation of your team. He could have been a free agent at the end of this year. You didn't want to lose him. You lock him up. And I guess the identity and the foundation of your team is decided. And look, Sorokin was second in the Vezina Trophy voting last year. He's an elite goaltender. You didn't want to lose him. And I don't know if there's any team in the league that is more dependent on their goaltending than the New York Islanders are. So it was a vital move for this team.
And this piggybacks perfectly into our next question. And so it may be that Sorokin is the answer here, but who figures to be the most important player to the Islanders this year, and what makes them so crucial to the team's success?
It's got to be Sorokin. I mean, the Islanders were 22nd in the league in goals scored. They were 30th in the league on the power play. If you give up 3 goals in a game, you have a better than 50-50 chance of losing that game. They count on their goaltender to keep them in games, and more often than not, he does. He is an elite goalie. He is able to cover up for a lot of mistakes that this team makes and come up with some really big saves that boost the morale and the confidence of the players in front of him. So to me, he is the key to the Islanders' success this year.
Gil, who is a potential breakout candidate for the Islanders that fans both of the Islanders and fans of the NHL in general should know about?
I would have to go with Oliver Wahlstrom. He's on a 1-year deal now. He was a former number 1 pick, and they're still waiting for him to sort of have that breakout season. He was injured in December last year, missed the rest of the season. Theoretically, he's a power forward who can get you 20, 25, maybe eventually even 30 goals. He's never stayed healthy enough and played well enough to reach those milestones. This is sort of his last chance. And when Zach Parise retired, you need to replace those 21 goals that he gave you in the lineup. The best possible candidate is Oliver Wahlstrom. He has bulked up a little bit. He's trying to fill a power forward role. And if he can do that, even if the Islanders go from 22nd in the league in goals to 15th and go from 30th in the league in power plays to 22nd, when you've got a goalie like Ilya Sorokin, that can be a difference maker.
The big question, what would a successful season look like for the Islanders this year? And also, what is at stake if that level of success is not achieved?
Well, they've got to make the playoffs for one, and I would think a really successful season is they win at least a round. But let's get into the playoffs. It is so competitive in the Eastern Conference this year. The Islanders made it by 1 point a year ago, so there's not a lot of margin for error. You got to figure teams like Buffalo, Ottawa, Detroit, Pittsburgh are all going to be better than they were a year ago. So there's a big challenge here for the Islanders. If they don't make it, it's a good question. I think Lane Lambert would probably be on the hot seat if he indeed survives, if they don't make the playoffs. And I think the bigger question is Lou Lamoriello. I think right now that ownership is 100% behind Lou Lamoriello. The fan base, maybe not as enthusiastic, but if they don't make the playoffs, I would hope that management reassesses the plan for this team, which has been going with older players, keeping the group together, trading away prospects, and they've traded away 4 first-round picks in a row just to either barely make or barely miss the playoffs. I can understand trading away 4 first-round picks in a row if you're one player or 2 players away from being a real cup contender. They're trying to either be the 7th, 8th, or 9th place team in the conference. I hope that would change if they don't make the playoffs, but I can't say I'm overly optimistic.
For more on the New York Islanders, make sure to follow Locked On Islanders on your favorite podcast app and on YouTube so you never miss an episode. And check out the season previews for all 32 teams across the Locked On NHL channel, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.